In my video on overtaking on the left recently, a few points were raised in the comments that I do feel need addressing. So in this video, I'm going to be looking at the comments that went along the lines of, "You're spreading misinformation. You should know better as a driving instructor. Overtaking on the left is not illegal." I'm also going to be looking at the phrase undertaking that appeared quite a lot. Second point I'll be looking at is, how do you define a queue? How many cars? How long should the queue be? What speed should it be moving? The third point is, you're wrong to tell people to flash headlights if they're hogging an overtaking lane. That's road rage. And another comment that came up quite regularly is, so if someone is doing 25 miles per hour in the fast lane, the overtaking lane, I'm supposed to slow and match their speed so I don't overtake on the left. How does that work? And I will address the slight difference between driving on a dual carriageway and driving on a motorway in regards to overtaking on the left. First of all, thank you for the comments about it was a little bit distracting flicking between the two cameras a bit too often. Sorry, that's my fault. I'm new to the editing, a bit newer to the editing than most. Thank you for letting me know it was distracted. So I will obviously reduce the amount of times that that's happening in this video. Do let me know if it's better. Sorry, had to get out of my system. So before we get into it, if you are seeing me for the first time, please do hit like, subscribe. I'm only a small channel at the moment, but I will only give you official information, and I'm always free to have people calling me out if they think I'm saying something wrong. There's plenty of content on the channel, so please do hit like and subscribe. So firstly, about the misinformation. I'm spreading misinformation. Overtaking on the left is not illegal. Everything I read from in the video is from the official highway code or the DVSA official guide to driving. Both of these are official publications, and so therefore if I'm reading directly from one of those and you think I'm spreading misinformation, you are actually having a problem with the DVSA and the Department of Transport themselves. Now, one possible cause for people thinking that I'm spreading misinformation. So one person called me out and said, as a driving instructor, you should know better. If in the highway code it's quoted as must not, it is backed up by a law, whereas if it's not, then it's not. So basically he was saying that because I'm saying must not at times, I'm actually misquoting. Now, the possible cause for confusion there is this book, Official DVSA Guide to Driving, Driving the Essential Skills. This is not the highway code. It is a lovely thing for driving instructors to use to teach from, and it's packed full of useful information and advice. So if you look at the quote that I gave on the video from page 184 in this book about overtaking on the left on a dual carriageway, it says you must not overtake on the left. Now, that is not the book saying that that is against the law. That is just the advice they are giving you, and they're using the words must not. In the highway code, rule 163, which would be applicable on dual carriageways, uses the phrase you should, in rule 163, only overtake on the left if the vehicle, and it's again, you should stay in your lane if traffic is moving slowly in queue. So that is not the law, but it is the advice. Because it is not illegal to overtake on the left, some people wrongly assume it is perfectly legal, and it's not. It is wrong, is the word I would use, and you are going to get pulled over if you're seen to do it and issued with a careless driving fine. Just because something is not illegal does not mean the police will not pull you over for it. If you go against any of the advice in the highway code, a police officer will have the right to pull you over and potentially charge you with something like driving without due care and attention, careless driving, driving in a manner that is likely to cause distress or alarm, etc. So all quotes in my video were correct. Now, one of the biggest things about overtaking on the left is some people think there is a difference between undertaking, passing on the left, and overtaking on the left. They think they are different things. They are not. They are the same thing. If you pass a vehicle on your right, you are overtaking on the left. It is that simple. This is where people go wrong. Undertaking is not a word in either of these publications. Undertaking is I'm undertaking a new career, or I am an undertaker. In the driving world, undertaking is not a recognized phrase. it is always referred to as overtaking on the left. So you will not hear me saying undertaking. So you need to understand when overtaking on the left is actually okay, which is very rarely. So next, a comment that was quite regular: how do you define a queue? How many cars? What speed is the queue moving at? I agree it's subjective, but I'm going to play some footage from one of my learners on her first drive on a dual carriageway, and I promise you it is, I'm not making this up. We join the dual carriageway and we're straight away in a queue. So at this point, I introduced to her overtaking on the left. Now in queues like this, we actually can now overtake it on the left. So happy what you're doing with this lorry is absolutely fine. Now if it becomes not a queue, we then again can't overtake on the left. So now we're starting to build up a bit of speed. Now I would go back to not overtaking on the left. Does that make sense? But that was a queue there, maybe back there, so that was fine. It turns into a queue. Again, your lane might be moving faster than the lane on your right. That's fine to then keep pace with that lane. However, we then shortly get congested again, and I ask her this question. Brilliant. So would you say we're now in a queue?
Yeah.
Can we therefore overtake on the left?
Yeah.
Brilliant. There you go. Happy with that? And she herself can work out that she is in a queue and therefore is entitled to keep up with her lane. And if the lane in onto her right is moving more slowly, she is okay to keep up, even if it means overtaking on the left. Now, a learner on her first driving lesson with minimal prompting could work out when she was in a queue and when she was not. So personally for me, I think people with more experience should be able to work this out for themselves. But we know Rule 163, which is applicable on a dual carriageway. Stay in your lane if traffic is moving slowly in queues. If the queue on your right is moving more slowly than you are, you may pass on the left. In the DVSA official guide to driving, the advice for a dual carriageway is you must not overtake on the left unless traffic is moving slowly in queues and the queue on your right is moving more slowly than you are. So again, we've actually followed that to the letter in that video. Third one that came up in the video originally, I did say that I would deal with someone that's hogging the overtaking lane by moving into a position behind them, keeping a safe distance, and if they don't move over, flash the headlights. And some people were pointing out that I was wrong to do that. It's a road rage incident, and one person even pulled up the Met Police screen that I showed to list overtaking on the inside as an offence, and it lists flashing your lights, forcing others to give way as an offence. So therefore, I'm wrong to suggest it. Okay. Now, there is a big difference in how I would do that and flashing your lights, forcing someone to give way. So picture the scenario, lane two of a dual carriageway. You've got one vehicle that's just hogging the overtaking lane. I've caught up in the inside lane and now realize they're not going to move over. So I take up a position in lane two. I'm keeping a safe distance, so I'm not intimidating. That position should be enough for that person to work out that I would like to overtake and they should move back in. If they don't, a short flash of the headlights is perfectly acceptable. Your flash of headlights is designed to alert people of your presence. Just because people use the horn and a flash of the headlights incorrectly does not mean that you can't do it when it is correct to do it. So I've got a video that I'll put a link to in the descriptions where I detail about how to use, situations where you can use the horn correctly. The flash of the headlights. Now, if someone is in lane two of a dual carriageway just sitting there, the reason they would be charged with driving without due care and attention or careless driving is because they are not showing any awareness of other people around them and they are not showing any awareness of their positioning. So that is careless driving. Me sitting behind them, I wish to get round, flashing the headlights, is alerting them of my presence. So that should make them go, oh, oh yeah, and move back into the left. If it doesn't, another small flash of the headlights would be perfectly acceptable. Now, if you are the type of person that someone just doing a small flash of the headlights at you sends you into a fit of rage where you feel you need to do a brake check on me, that's a you problem, not a me problem. The difference in terms of what the Met Police are saying about flashing your lights to forcing someone to give way is now I've screamed in behind that car in lane 2. I'm too close, I'm tailgating, I'm intimidating them. And now, machine gun headlights. That is flashing your lights, forcing someone to give way. There's a big difference. I'm using the headlights correctly for their intended purpose. Remember, I am not telling you to do this. I am giving you some advice. I've never felt the need to do that, but that is how I would deal with the situation. Oh, quick costume change. So if you do follow a guy called Jobber on Facebook or whatever, he's probably on Instagram, things like that. He's a liability expert and he does explain a lot of situations very well. Now, one of his latest videos, there is a heavy vehicle driving at night on a motorway and no one else is around. Middle lane hogger. So the heavy catches up to the middle lane hogger, sits behind for a little while, and when the middle lane hogger shows no sign of moving back into the left, the heavy flashes the headlights and eventually the middle lane hogger does speed up. That's the exact advice I gave to you. Now, remember, it's advice. If you don't like it, don't do it. The reason I like that video is because it shows someone that clearly understands the rules and is demonstrating them to perfection. The heavy is not allowed in lane 3 of a motorway, so they have to stay either in the lane they're in or move behind the middle lane hog. After a period of nothing happening, they then flash the headlights and that resolves the situation. They were not in congested conditions, so overtaking on the left would not be okay even if you didn't change lanes and even if you just maintained your speed. So really good example of watching someone do it correctly. Also, someone drew my attention to Black Belt Barrister. He's a lawyer online and he does a very good video on undertaking. And people have said that what I have said is kind of going against what he's saying. And no, it's not, because it's congested conditions. We're talking traffic and queues. What he says as well is if you do change lanes to overtake on the left, you're more likely to attract the attention of that traffic officer. In the video, if you have watched it, where he's using the whiteboard to demonstrate, he's drawing congested conditions. There's lots of cars. It's not a free-flowing motorway. So I think where, again, people are getting confused is they're seeing videos like that and thinking, well, as long as I don't change lanes to the left and then overtake, it's okay. And actually, no, it's not. If you're just maintaining the speed limit in your lane in non-congested conditions and passing vehicles on your right, you are overtaken on the left. Then there was a few people actually said, so what, you're telling me on a motorway, if I've got a car doing 25 miles an hour in lane 3 or lane 4, I'm meant to slow and sit behind them and wait and not overtake them on the left. Now, for me, this is a bit of a non-question, because have you ever seen this happen? I certainly haven't. I've driven a lot and I've driven on many, many motorways and dual carriageways, and I have never seen this. But as a lot of people were correct to reply in the comment, the person doing 25 miles an hour is the one that's going to attract the attention from the police. Even if you did pass on the left, I don't think the police would be as interested in you as they are that person that's going as slowly as they are. Even if that person is in lane 1, they're going to be attracting the attention of the police. So one of the clips I played in the video was from a motorway, and some people were commenting saying that they actually don't see that much wrong with it. I certainly don't see it as reckless, let's get that right. But if you were seen to do this by the police, in my opinion, I do believe you would be pulled over for a chat. Now, the reason is motorway driving, rule 268 in the highway code, do not overtake on the left. And it talks about congested conditions. So congestion is blocked, congestion is traffic. Backing up our second official source, page 301 of the DVSA official guide to driving, never overtake on the left unless the traffic is moving in queues and the queue on your right is moving more slowly than the queue you're in. So with motorways, we're giving a little bit more wiggle room than we are on a dual carriageway. You can be moving in a queue at probably about 40 miles an hour, if that's the speed the whole carriageway is flowing at, due to congestion. And if your queue is moving quicker than the queue on your right, yes, you can keep pace. Okay. Now, what that doesn't entitle you to do is what the CAN driver does here. Look at the lane in front of them. They are not in a queue. They are in a reduced speed limit motorway, 50 miles an hour. That is not congestion. This is not congestion. So no, they are not okay to overtake on the left in this situation. And I do believe they would be pulled over if caught. Thank you to one of my commenters who said he's actually got a car with adaptive cruise control. I haven't had a car with that yet, but it was very interesting that he said his car will not let him overtake on the left. It will only let him overtake on the left if he's a good 20 to 30 miles an hour below the speed limit. He can override it for safety, he says. Now that is really useful for me to know, and I think some people in the comments and online would probably be quite surprised at that. Why is my car not letting me overtake on the left? Because they don't understand the rules themselves. My advice to you, be very clear on overtaking on the left. It is a rising trend and people online are spreading so much misinformation about this. Be clear on it, because it could be you getting pulled over for a nice little chat by a police officer at some point. Also, if 4 sources wasn't enough for you, I'm now providing a 5th. Okay, so I have emailed Norfolk Constabulary, their press office, and I should be doing a video with a traffic officer interviewing and asking their opinions on overtaking on the left. I've just met these 3 guys in the M&S, which I'm now sat having got a delicious coffee, and I went up to them and I said, do you mind if I ask you a question? And they said, as long as it's a good one. And I said, overtaking on the left. Straight away shook their heads, straight away. Okay, now I asked them the questions, is it only overtaking on the left if I change lanes? They said no. Okay, now they are absolutely clear that the bigger problem is middle lane hoggers and people that hog the overtaking lane, but they are saying that they are seeing more and more strange things on the road in people overtaking on the left and thinking they can do it. Okay, the highway code is very clear, and so was the DVSA official guide to driving that I showed you, very, very clear. And unfortunately, the misinformation spread that you're getting online is leading to these guys pulling more and more people over for overtaking on the left because people think they can do it. Go with what I'm showing you and you won't have a problem. As I said, I will be hopefully getting an interview actually for the camera and for the channel on Norfolk Constabulary. So if you want to see that, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and that'll be hopefully in a few weeks I'll be hearing something about that. So lastly, look, I'm a driving instructor. I give my opinion based on the official sources that I read from, and I'm essentially telling you how I drive and how I teach my pupils. That's up to you what you do with that advice. If you like me and you decide to follow me and subscribe to my channel, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. I won't change the way I teach. There were a lot of people that disagreed with me on the overtaking on the left video, and that's fine. That's what it's all about, healthy debate, getting that debate flowing. If therefore you don't agree with what I'm saying, then maybe I'm not the instructor that you should be following.